Welcome everybody to the Inner Circle. We're going to kick things off today. Today's episode is part two of our Second Line Leaders series. And we're going to go deep into one of the biggest challenges that business owners and business unit leaders face in our business world today. And this is something that I believe is just critical for any industry, whether you're running a landscape company, a plumbing shop, a junk removal company, cleaning company, multi-division, doesn't matter. It's all about what is centered in today's topic, and that is recruiting, developing, and retaining a team of leaders that actually lead. So folks, I'm talking about not followers, not firefighters, not telling me what to do next, people, but like real leaders, the ones that remove work from your world, not add to it. Right? And so what's the key here? And that is that first we must unlock the kind of team that comes down to one framework. And I wish every company understood this, because if they did, and once they do, you'll get what we're talking about. And so today I'm going to tell you a quick concept, and I'm going to refer it back to the Ideal Team Player book. And the concepts are hungry, humble, and smart. And this is the lens that will reveal who becomes a strong second line leader and who becomes a complete disaster in your organization. So today we're breaking it down with stories, examples that are practical tools, and a brand new leadership ladder that you can take back and develop your people starting tomorrow. Like not next week, not next month, certainly not next year, but tomorrow. If you're serious about scaling and about really getting the right culture in your organization and retaining the right people and bringing and attracting the right people, then let's get started tomorrow, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something. When I go out and I talk to business unit leaders and I talk to business owners all the time, and I hear from them, man, I have a sales problem. I have a marketing problem. I have an operations problem. They're always telling me they have all these problems, but there's very little or very few that come to me and actually admit that they have a people problem. And it doesn't come top of mind. They always look for, I have a training problem, I have a training gap, or I don't have enough revenue, I don't have this, but they never identify what we're going to talk about today. And that's that you, in your business, if it's struggling, you probably, more than likely, 80% have a second line leadership problem. Because if the middle layer is weak, and I'm talking about your supervisors, your foremen, your leads, your dispatchers, your assistant managers, your trainers, then everything else, my friends, falls back on you. You become the default problem solver. You become the decision maker. You become the emotional support for your entire organization. And guess what? You also become the default firefighter. So whether you're in HVAC, lawn care, roofing, pest control, doesn't matter, right? I know how this feels because I've lived it. I've seen it firsthand. And so you're trying to grow your company, but your supervisors and your team can't run a day without you. You're trying to scale your systems. You're trying to make every decision for your team, and you're trying to build a team, but half your leads require babysitting. So the owners always get trapped. This is the trap that you constantly are in. And not because your business can't grow, but because your leadership capacity is capped out. You have a bandwidth of leadership that requires a wider view, but you're currently stuck with this. And it's you and maybe one other person. So the bottleneck that's been created is not the workload. It's not the scaling. It's not this. It's the leadership depth. Right? That's really what it is. And so here's the kicker. If you really want to scale and you really want to take this to the next level, this is why hungry, humble, smart matters today more than ever. And so Patrick Lencioni gave us a gift. He really changed the game with this book. So I'm encouraging everyone in this call, anyone listening to this, go get this book. Read it, study it, and you'll then apply and you'll learn the 3 simple virtues of hungry, humble, smart. So we're going to break these down for you with real life examples and how they apply. We're going to start with hungry. Okay. This isn't like workaholic energy. This is ownership. This is an individual that takes initiative. They move fast. They want responsibility. Okay. They don't need to be chased. Okay. These are individuals that ask, how do we fix this? Instead of, what do you want me to do? Right? You hear the difference? That's the type of individuals that are going to be identified as hungry. So think of a foreman who shows up early, already knows the day's challenges, has half of them already solved, before you even walk into the office. Or a dispatcher who builds tomorrow's routes or even 3 days out before you even ask. That is true hungry drive. That's hungry urgency, and that is hungry momentum. That is what's going to really drive the engagement for that hungry individual. The next one is humble. Now, this is the darkest trait to hire for, and probably the most challenging one when you look for this. But humble leaders take feedback. They accept it openly. They look for it. They're encouraged by feedback. They own their mistakes, and they drop their ego at the door. And they put their team before themselves. They don't need a trophy. They don't need the whole BS that comes with the noise. They just need to be included. They want to feel appreciated, and they like that overall involvement. Think of a crew lead who says to you after something's gone sideways, hey, that one's on me. I should have checked. I know better. We'll do it better next time, right? That, without pointing fingers, just owns it. That is a humble individual. That's a trait. Look out for those type of individuals, okay? The next one is smart. This isn't IQ smart. I want to clarify that. This isn't like a book smart person. Don't get it confused. This is EQ. This is emotional intelligence. This is people intelligence. They know how to read a room. They coach without attacking. So they're constantly looking to improve. They descale conflict. Because they're able to read a room, they understand how to communicate upstream and downstream. They understand tone, timing, and most importantly, emotional pressure. They stay cool under pressure. And they communicate clearly under stress. They get what is urgent and how they need to tackle it. Think of an operations supervisor who keeps the yard calm on a crazy Monday morning, right? Talks to frustrated customers, talks them down, helps the tech team recover through a tough day, all within the morning task list. Right? So now, the one missing piece becomes potentially a landmine, right? So that's the thing that we're looking for when we're talking about the whole setup of hungry, humble, smart. Okay, now we're going to take this a little deeper, and we're going to talk to you about what makes them up and how they all work in conjunction. Hungry plus smart, but not humble. That's an arrogant performer. Look out for that. So you have to look for these. These are checkpoints, okay? Humble plus hungry, but not smart, is a really nice but ineffective leader. They get along with everybody, but they're never going to push for growth. Okay? Humble and smart, but not hungry, has zero drive. They are cool with just being status quo, and they will never, ever drive for improvement. The magic happens when all 3 of these align, right? And then is when you truly get a real second line leader that will allow your teams and your businesses to continue to grow the right way. So you're telling me, hey, Hector, that's amazing. That's great. But how do I get them here? How do I recruit them? How do I show them this is where we're the employer of choice, we're the business team they want to be at. So I'm going to give you some practical hiring funnels that take less than 1 hour, and I can tell you it works. Whether you're hiring a foreman, a dispatcher, a field lead, a warehouse supervisor, it doesn't matter the industry. These things work. So let's get into it. I call this the 10-minute screen. And look, you get a resume, you already know the technical aspect. You'll know if they can do the job, right? I need to know, and I need y'all to understand, you're checking for fit. You need to understand, will they fit my core values in my organization? And will they fit my 3 pillars of hungry, humble, smart? Okay. So here's what you're looking for: energy, humility, and clear communication. So ask, tell me about a time you were behind on schedule. Tell me a time you didn't meet your objectives. What did you do? How did it work out? How did it pan out? What happened? Watch the answers. Do they blame others? Do they blame the organization that they currently work for? Do they blame their current leaders? Or do they take accountability? Do they speak clearly? Do they light up? Do they light you up? Like does their energy bring you energy? Or do they drain you from that 10-minute conversation? In 10 minutes, you will be able to tell more than just a plain resume when you ask the right questions and when you look for those particular themes. When you're looking for a hungry answer, a humble answer, and a smart answer in your questions, you'll be able to determine right away whether these individuals are the ones you want to be part of your organization. So in leadership scenarios, I want you to ask, you walk into a shift before, when everything's behind, what do? A hungry person takes initiative. A humble person asks questions. And a smart person will prioritize, and they will give you those answers based on, their system, their logic to it. So hear that out. If their answer talks about, hey, well, we're behind, I'm going to go hands on, I'm going to help, that's a hungry person. If it's humble, they'll ask, well, why are we behind? What set us apart? Like how did we fall off? What were some of the things that weren't working that led us to be behind? So that they understand, okay, we might need some system, some training, something in there to help us prevent it from getting behind again. And a smart person will prioritize. They'll say, all right, well, we're behind. What's the critical steps that we need to deliver first? And so you can really dial in to the questions and the answers and really get some good juice out of that orange when you squeeze it with the right questions, okay? Now, the culture test. This is important because you need to give them real friction, okay? You need to give them the pissed off, angry customer. You need to give them the late employee. You need to give them hey, the job's rushed. Hey, by the way, the customer just called. I need X done by tomorrow. Let's see how they can handle the pressure, right? Oh, and also, yeah, we need the job done, but your equipment broke down. How do you deal with that? Oh, and by the way, it's winter. It's Canadian winters. We all know about how fun the weather delays can be. What do you do with that? Right? All of these create friction, and watch how they think, not what they say. This is really important. Watch how they think, their body language, the way that they they understand the question before they answer it. So as an example, a field interview, as an example would be like, to really dial into what makes them tick, what makes them shake in a way in that interview, so you get a true organic sense of what they will be like in real life once you hire them. But I'm going to give you a cheat code. We're going to call it a cheat code that most employers today, I should say, don't leverage this. And I call this, and we did this at Willie's Trucking, and I've done this everywhere else that I've gone. We call it a shadow day, a trial day. And so nothing will reveal a character more than putting them into the real work environment. And so what I tell people is, hey, if you're going to hire that dispatcher, you're going to hire that supervisor, you're going to hire that manager, bring them into your organization. Bring them in for half a day. Have them hang out in the environment that they're going to work in. and let's get them to interact with the people that they are going to work with, the coworkers, the individuals that may report to them, individuals that are in different departments, because that is when you're going to see them at their natural state. You're going to see the way they communicate with others. You're going to understand, are they humble? Are they arrogant? Right? Are they smart? Can they read a room? Can they communicate with all different people, all different levels? Are they hungry? Do they show initiative in the time that they're around your team? Right? All of that will be shown to you in a matter of hours, and you'll be able to see and gut check how you proceed going forward. So that's a cheat code. We've used it. I know Willie will probably talk a little bit about that afterwards, but just wanted to point that out because most companies will hire people that they've never seen in action just based on the interview questions. And so, like, don't let yourself be that person. Go bring them in. There's nothing wrong with bringing them in. Buy them coffee, buy them lunch, give them a gift card if you want to thank them for their time. And that's it. Then they get to interview you too. They get to understand if that's the organization they want to be in. Because listen, they might tell you they align, but then they show up and they get to hear you in action and they get to feel the stress of your organization, and it might not be for them. So best to avoid it early. So that's a cheat code. I wanted to just bring that to everybody. Now, I want to talk a little bit about retention, because now that you know what to look out for, how to bring them in and how to attract them, here's a problem is a lot of really good leaders leave organizations. And here's why. I'm going to break it down for you to make it sense so that you understand this. Hungry people quit when there's no growth. So if you have a lot of hungry individuals in your organization, you need to be aware and consistently looking out for how to grow, how to develop these people. They won't sit still in a stagnant environment. In fact, they'll hate it. Okay? So know that when you have hungry people. Humble people quit when there's no accountability. They can't stand watching you protect the problem employee. This is very important. It aggravates them. It makes them feel that you're putting priority on weak performers and they don't like it. So that's a key for humble individuals. And smart people quit when things are chaotic. If everything is last minute, everything is reactive, then they hate that environment. They will leave. Okay? So understanding those three things, and you're hiring for all those three principles, that means you need to be aware of the environment, the people around in your organization, and the growth opportunities for these individuals, because these second line leaders you're going to bring in are going to be real leaders. So therefore you have to be able to tackle those three things as they enter the career path with your organization. Okay? So one thing is really critical when it comes to retention, and I want to make sure that everybody hears. Retention is not about swag. Okay? Retention is not about pizza parties. It's not about that BS, okay? And I'm serious about that. It's not. Retention is about trust. Is about structure. It's about development, clarity, and coaching. But the most important one, I'll tell you this, it's about removing C players in your organization. You want to keep your good people, get rid of your C players, because your best people won't leave because of workload. They leave because you allowed environments that kill their motivation. I know that because I've left organizations when they killed my motivation. I couldn't stand it. And I told myself many, many, many years ago, if I ever got to be a leader, I would make sure I got rid of all those headaches. And I made a career out of doing that, by the way. So I don't mind getting rid of the pain in the butts people. I think that it's something that has to be done for the improvement of the organizations. So important that you hold the line on standards, or you will lose the people who raise them. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a core framework now on how you transform a good worker into a second line leader. Picture a staircase. Okay, you have different levels, right? So there's every level building up on each one. We're going to start with tier 1 or level 1. This is the very beginning. This is the foundation. And so in order to coach people up, I want you to get them ready to show these behaviors, that they admit gaps, that they take feedback, that they're leaning and learning on SOPs. Okay? They show discipline and that they own the mistakes. If they resist training, if they resist feedback and they resist structure, guess where they got to go? They got to go work somewhere else. They got to exit. They can't stay here. Okay? So, an example, a lawn crew lead who keeps saying, I've been doing this for 10 years, right? Whenever you want to go correct them, that's not a humble person. That's not a person that's going to get feedback. So, your role here is provide them role clarity, reset the standards, and reset the structure, because if they don't get it, there's the door. Go. Right? And so I'm passionate about this one because this is critical for success. And I've seen it, and I can tell you it's so important. Now, we get them going. They bought into those level 1. They're ready for level 2, the next tier up. Okay? Now we're managing. Now we're starting to cook. So these are the behaviors that we want to ensure that we communicate clearly, that they are able to de-escalate conflict. Conflict resolution is critical at this stage. That they anticipate problems. They keep the teams aligned. There's no finger pointing. They're building. They're almost like a glue for the organization, right? And they start to make decisions. Your role, when you start to identify people into this level, is you coach them and you give them space. You let them swim, you let them run, you let them maneuver, because they're learning and they're in that really critical step just before they get up to the next level. So let them do those things. Okay. Now this is where EQ matters more because of that skill. So an example would be like, let's take a cleaning supervisor who can calm down a frustrated cleaner after a customer complaint, but can still keep the day moving. Well, that's a smart person, right? They de-escalated an issue, they took care of the customer who was upset, and they finished the workload on time. All of this is super important to understand for this level of leader, right? Now, they start moving into tier 3. I call this the hungry category. This is when you're starting to develop high performers. And I've been very fortunate in my career to work with many high performers. There's a few of them in the room here today that have had a chance to work with me, and I've loved these people because they are always looking to bring solutions. They improve processes. They spot reoccurring issues, and they move with speed. They don't waste time. They also train others. They start to develop others to also be to that level, and they own outcomes. They understand that they're owning these outputs. Now, your role when you have these individuals, remove barriers for them. Okay? Don't be a roadblock. Remove the barriers. Give them the tools, the systems that they need so they continue to be successful. And secondly, give them bigger challenges. Keep them engaged because these are hungry people. They're going to want a bigger challenge. If you don't provide bigger challenges, they're going to go look for somebody or somewhere else that will give them that challenge. Okay? So an example here is an irrigation tech who creates a checklist to prevent your top 3 callbacks. That's a person that's hungry. They understand an issue. Your callbacks are $0 revenue visits. You don't want those. So what do? You create a checklist. You think ahead. You make sure that you're prepared so that you don't have those. That's an example of someone, maneuvering or acting in that level 3. All right, level 4. This is where you start to build leaders and they have the hungry, humble, smart combined. This is the dream. This is the ultimate, right? And so the behaviors here are mentors. They're mentoring others. They model your core values. They hold the standard super high, and they're driving the culture now. They think long term. And so now in your role is to delegate outcomes, not tasks. So give them big picture outcomes and allow them to think of succession. and build a succession pipeline around them. This is how you reduce your hours, your stress, and your decision fatigue. Okay. This is like what I think is critical to retain those people as well. Because, what I believe here is something that if we just took consistency as a key thing in applying these, you will see how quickly these individuals take control and start to deliver results. So I want to point out consistency here. Now, I said it earlier, and so I'm going to go back to this because I don't want to forget this topic, and that's the C player problem in your organization. So I'm going to say this so that all of you are clear. A C player will destroy your humble, hungry, and smart leaders. They will destroy your organization. They will drain your hungry people. They will frustrate the crap out of your humble people. They will overwhelm your smart people. And so your top talent will never outperform your tolerance to low performance. Ever, ever will that happen. So the longer you tolerate that, the more frustrated your top talent becomes. And I can tell you, they will leave. So you need to coach them. You need to support them because they're humans, right? But if nothing changes, if they don't get on the team if they don't jump in, well, then you better act. You better make the move and get them going because your best people are watching you and your future leaders are watching and your culture of your organization is watching. And so if you know that as a business owner and as a department lead, then don't become the problem yourself, okay? Don't do that. Don't make excuses for those individuals. So act on it. So, in closing, a second line leader, they don't magically appear. Okay. And they're not unicorns either, by the way. I've heard this before. People ask me, they're just unicorns. They're hard to find. Nah, that's BS. That's just your weak excuse because you don't recognize that they're intentionally built. You have to do the hard work to build them and to attract them and then to retain them, right? So the humble, hungry, and smart framework helps you recruit better. It helps you develop your teams faster and retain the good ones longer and build a leadership bench that supports real scale. So that's this is what I think is critical for us to discuss today. And this is how you scale your business with no more chaos and with real true leaders. So appreciate it. We'll get into our Q&A section now, and I'll pass it back to you, Alan, and let's get us started with some Q&A.
Well, beautiful. I'd love to just give you a big old standing ovation and a round of applause. That was just really great teaching. That was great content, and I love it. Of course, Hector, I always say it, you always bring the heat, man. You always bring the fire. And I love it that it's never a waste of time to come and sit in on these calls. So well done, well done again. Now, you had
Thanks.
mentioned Patrick Lencioni's book. Now, so this comes from, I Googled it while you were chatting, so I apologize. I was a little distracted, but I
Yeah, yeah, no,
Googled
all good.
Patrick Lencioni, Hungry, Humble, Smart, and it came up with a book title called The Ideal Team Player. Is that
The
correct?
ideal team player. That's the
So
book. That's
I'll,
right.
I'll put that in the chat for you, but the book is actually called The Ideal Team Player. It's by Patrick Lencioni, and I've read most of his stuff. He is brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. If you go
Super
to
good.
my bookshelf, and it's got a whole section of Patrick Lencioni on there. And I'm not one of those really high intellectual guys. I hate to admit it. And I never read through college or university. So, but I love his stuff, and I can relate to all of it, and he makes it crystal clear. So, the Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni, describing the three virtues of a good team player: hungry, humble, and smart. So
Yeah.
fabulous. So let's open up the call. Now,
Well,
if you've got a question for Hector about any of the content that he delivered, if you've got a comment about any of the content that was delivered, and Willie, you might even have a practical example that you can share us.
yeah.
Now's the time. And then after that, we're going to still allow some time. We're going to move into that hot topic coaching section where you could bring anything to the table, any
Yeah.
problem, any issue, any frustration to the table. People in the room are
Let's
going to help you. So who's first? Who's got a comment or who's got a question
uh,
about the content that was delivered
what
today?
Why don't we go to Willie first? Let's start with Willie. I'd like to just open it up with Willie and maybe get some experience, that you've seen with this and how does it resonate with you, Willie?
Yeah, definitely a couple touch points here. When you said don't become your own problem, that I think is a big one where I didn't recognize early on how much I was part of the problem of not building up our team, where I was always letting things slide when it wasn't okay. I wasn't willing to face the hard conversations that I needed to have with the team. And so I think that's what I wanted to point out for those to understand at a deeper level when sometimes we are the biggest problem on our own team. And that's when we're not having those hard conversations and solving it. And so that was a big one. And then the other thing you touched on, bringing people in before you're hiring them, that's such a smart thing to do. And that I learned from Hector. We did it all the time. And you talked about bringing them in and letting them work a couple hours or a shift. And we have even sometimes, okay, we had good feedback, but weren't quite sure from the other team members. Well, let's bring them in for the second time, see if they're willing to come in again. And and then we would bring them in for the second time and then make our decision if we're going to hire them. So those were the things I came to mind that I thought I would like to touch on.
Yeah, thanks, Willie, and I appreciate that. You allowed us to do that because it was something that you'd be like, ah, should we do it? Can we do it? Yeah, bring them in. Like, let's see, right? And let's see how they pan out. And it was important to you that we received the feedback from the peers before we
That's right.
made that decision.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
smart is that? Well done. I mean, I love that idea. I wish I'd have heard that and learned that years ago when I actually had a large staff. I'd have done it. I'd have done it. Put them in the kitchen and turn the heat up.
That's
So,
it. And that was literally it. That's what we do. We find the tough environments to throw them in, right? Like go into the dispatch room, spend a couple hours in there, see how that feels, right? Go onto the dock, right? And see how that feels, or maybe go out to the service field, businesses. We do this right now with some of the landscape folks that I work with. I said, "Yep, hire that supervisor. Send him out to the field. Let's see how he interacts with people, with the customers, with his team. Let's hear how he handles the equipment broke down, but we still have to get it done, right? Like, let's see it. Let's see it in action."